Start recording. Sick beat, lost the time. Okay, I'm just going to say hi to YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Unfortunately, I forgot to hit record, so you've lost the little jam I did at the beginning, but welcome to the Myth Side 1 and Side 2 Q&A. I have a whole bunch of questions here that I'm going to try and answer. There are questions I do not want to answer, mainly about lore, but I am going to answer some lore questions as well, to explain to people why I am not going to be answering every lore question. I can give you two examples of reasons why this is. One, when I was a kid, I was a big fan of the movie Donnie Darko. A lot of people like Donnie Darko. The theatrical cut is a great movie. It's a great movie. It's sort of basic now to love it, but it was great. The director's cut of Donnie Darko answers all the questions. In the movie Donnie Darko, it reveals what happened. It reveals what's going on behind the scenes. It reveals who this character is and who this character is and what magic is going on. And it fucking sucks. And I hate that. And I thought I wanted to know the answers to those things. And I was wrong. The second example I'm going to give you is earlier on today, somebody sent an ask to my Tumblr. I am on Tumblr, and for my sins. And they asked a question, and I said, you know what? I'm just going to give them the lore answer to this. I'll tell them what my intention was. And then I gave them my intention, and they said, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that's cool. What I thought was going on was this. And then they gave me a reading that was so much cooler than my intention, and I immediately deleted the thread. I immediately deleted it because the thing I like about myth, and the thing I like about the things that inspired myth, like M.R. James's Ghost Stories, like Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman, like Jonathan Strange and Mr. Gnarl by Susanna Clarke, like From Software games, is that they leave so many blank spaces that they are, whether they mean to or not, they are inviting me to engage creatively with their piece of work by leaving these blank spaces. And the way that that manifests in me is fascination. It's wanting to know the answers. But in wanting to know the answers, I start filling in the blanks myself with what is exciting to me. Now, if I read a lore Bible for any of those, or if I asked a question of the From Software team and I got an answer that gave me the answers that I wanted, what they are then doing is they're collapsing all of these possibilities into one possibility. What they're doing is they are revoking the invitation to engage with their work on a creative level by just telling me what the answer is, and that sucks. And that is why I am going to be very selective about the lore answers that I give. And sometimes also it will be defensive, because some things I just put in there because they were cool, and I don't want you to know that. I don't want you to know what parts of the story I put in just because I thought they were cool. And so everything is going to remain a mystery. And with that in mind, let's dive in to the Q&A. I have to say, I've screenshotted so much on here. These are all from the Discord. There will probably not be a link to the Discord in the YouTube video. Send me a DM somewhere. But here we go. How did you get all the ambient sounds into the background of these tracks? Was all of it added in post-production? Sweet. Immediately delete so I don't read it again. No, a lot of it wasn't added in post-production. The things that were added in post-production were the rain in all of the tracks except Heavy Rain on Hot Tin Roofs. The rain in that was 100% real. I was in a house in Amsterdam. I was in a house outside now Amsterdam, and it started to rain, and I was in a loft room, and the rain was coming down really heavily on the window, and the window was like tilted like that, which meant that if I opened the window, I would get rain coming in, which I loved, and I would get like percussive sounds of rain. Anyway, so Heavy Rain on Hot Tin Roofs was recorded on location in the rain. Not always possible to do that, so most rain was added in post-production. Waves were added in post-production. There is the sound of waves. But everything else, best example of this is on the second side, where you can hear me walking through a forest. Impossible to make that sound that real in post-production, at least for my skill level. So I just went into a forest with my phone. And it was, if you want to know specifically what forest, it was in Stirling. The Wallace Monument in Stirling is this sort of door wedge shape. It's like a triangle shape, and the Wallace Monument is a big tower at the top of it, and there is a forest that leads down like that, and I went into the forest that goes up there, up to the Wallace Monument, and I was just walking around like an absolutely insane person, just yelling to myself and getting caught on things, and the tearing my clothes at the end of side 2, that's also put in because I wasn't willing to go out there and actually rip my clothes up in case I run into somebody I know or somebody I don't know and they wonder why I'm on my own yelling in the forest with torn clothes. I don't want that. So yeah, the sound of me walking outside is the sound, like opening a door and walking outside, that is the sound of me recording in my room, walking to the door, undoing the latch and walking out. Like at least one or two of the pieces were recorded at 3 o'clock in the morning, me standing in my doorway looking out into my garden, just to get that sense of outsideness. Like, you can record into a microphone in a recording studio, but the listener knows when you're bullshitting. Like, the listener will know when you're not actually outside. And so I just did it. I did it as real as I could. And yeah, it was sick. I had a lot of fun with that. Right, let's see. Let's choose one at random. Choosing one at random. Do you want us to know the lore, or do you just enjoy making us dance? It's a question I often have when it comes to cryptic stories. If you were in the Discord in the couple of days after Side 2 came out, you will have seen me trying to lead people towards specific conclusions, and that was a mistake. And the reason I was doing that was that I have been sitting on a variation of this story for about 10 years, and I just wanted to talk about it, and I was so excited to talk about it, and I was so excited to be like, okay, so you think this is going on, but actually this is going on, and here's the main plot, but there's like a hidden plot thread here. And then I was like, this sucks. I would hate this if I was on the side of the people who were enjoying something. I don't want that. Again, I think I want that, and then I would drop the writer would drop an answer in, and I'm like, okay, Dumbledore's gay, I guess. I didn't need to know about that, but it's important to you that I know about that. Like, you don't want me to tell you who Sasha is. Like, I know who Sasha is in my head. I know that when I say in the story there is no Saint Sasha, there is a Saint Sasha. But you don't want me to tell you their story. Maybe you do. I don't know. Anyway, my point is I got really excited because I wanted to talk about this. And you don't know who Sasha is. I'm looking at the chat right now. There is no way in this world that you know who Sasha is. I didn't give you anywhere near enough information to figure out who Sasha is. But then again, maybe... Okay, you know what? No, I immediately go against my principles, because this isn't really one of the... No, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Fuck you. Stop trying to make me go against what I believe in. No, it's over. You don't want to know. No, leave me alone. You don't want to know. I love the vibe of myth so much. I'm really curious on what things you had as inspiration for this project, and if those inspirations are hot. I only take inspirations from hot things. I went through some of the inspirations. The art of Kay Nielsen. Wait, fuck. The Art of Kay Nielsen, which is here. That was a big inspiration for this. I actually have it on my wall up here. Fuck! Drop my phone. I have it on my wall up there. The Ghost Stories of M.R. James, who was this guy who wrote he was an English Oxford or Cambridge history professor, I think, or an archaeology professor. And every year he would get these students together, and he would tell them a ghost story that he had written. And he must have done this, for, I don't know, 15, 20 years. He wrote amazing ghost stories, and all the ghost stories are the same at the beginning. It is a very sort of Englishman who finds a cursed something and goes blah, 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 and then delves into the cursed thing and then becomes cursed and meets a ghost. And that is, they're fucking terrifying. The scariest one, as far as I'm concerned, is Whistle and I'll Come to You, My Lad, which is I'll come to you, my lad. Whistle and I'll fucking come to you, my lad. Which is just about a guy who finds a cursed whistle that says, whistle and I'll come to you. And he blows the whistle like a fucking idiot. Anyway, love his stuff. Yes, of course, Myth is inspired by House of Leaves, by Mark Z. Danielewski, I think is how you pronounce his name. He also wrote The 50-Year Sword, which is just as good and 1,000th of the size. It is a little fairy tale, and I love it. It's about a guy. The 50-Year Sword is great. It's about someone's 50-year birthday party, and all the kids get together upstairs, and this children's entertainer turns up at the party and goes upstairs to tell the kids a story, and he has a mysterious box, and that is the setup, and it's fucking incredible. Just to double check, people in the chat, everything's coming across okay? It sounds okay? You're not missing what I'm saying? Video's okay? Excellent. House of Leaves as well. I haven't read House of Leaves since it first came out, because I am older than you probably think I am, but it stuck with me. The idea of an essay about a film that doesn't exist, about a film that can't possibly exist. Incredible. I love fictional media. Jorge Luis Borges, Jorge Luis Borges, I don't know how to pronounce that last name, who wrote Library of Babel, I think, also wrote a bunch of stories that are about fictional media, and his stuff is incredible and also a big inspiration on this. And I think those are my... the album, this is maybe too on the nose, the album The Lost Songs of St. Kilda. St. Kilda is a real island that used to be occupied and is no longer occupied. And where do you think I got the idea for St. Sasha from? But the first 8 tracks of that album are amazing. They are just solo piano recorded on a 3-pound USB microphone by this guy who was in an old folks home, and he was like, I was taught piano by somebody who grew up on St. Kilda, and they had a piano and they had their own folk songs, and he taught me those folk songs. I can't remember the words, but I remember the melodies. Would you like to hear them? And the first 8 tracks on the Lost Songs of St. Kilda are just this guy, 85, 90 years old, playing these instrumental piano folk melodies from St. Kilda from memory, from when he was taught them as a child. And for all I know, they're actually just his own tracks, but it doesn't matter, because if that's true, then he is a master marketer. He's dead now, but those are fantastic, and you should listen to it. And the story of that was a big influence on this album, and the aesthetic of those first 8 tracks was a big influence on this album as well. Okay, fantastic. Let me delete that one. See what I mean? I'm never going to get through all of these. I'm never in a million years going to go through all of these. who actually is the choir master? Is she the beast or something? I'm pretty confused with the lore. I don't know if the Insane Theory Corner has explained it. I'm so sorry for people who are... I say sorry, I mean, like, I did this. There are going to be people who just cannot get... There are going to be people who bounce off this album because it's too abstract, and that is fine. And thank you for believing in me all the same. Insane Theory Corner is the correct term. I stopped going in there because I felt like I was going insane, and because I read some theories about what's going on in Myth that made me go, I shouldn't be here. Like, this is not... Like, this feels like going for a work night out and your boss turns up. Like, I shouldn't be in here. Anyway, who is the choir master? I feel like... I wouldn't want to tell you exactly who the choir master is, but the story of the choir master is being fed to my character. It's being fed to me in that story. Like, I am being compelled to tell that story, sort of against my will. And if you take that into consideration, that might give you a bit more of a hint as to who the choir master is, but also, like, who the choir master is less important than the effect the choir master has on the people that go to Saint Sasha. Yeah. How do you make the audio warped? I'll come back to that because I actually have my DAW set up. I'm going to come back to that because I want to show you. It took me so much work to figure out how to get this album sounding like it sounds, and I'm so proud of it. Okay, random one. What's with Ananke being a somewhat consistent theme in your work? How'd you learn about her being a less written about deity? Why does she keep appearing in your work? I have a really specific story about this. Who was Alan Moore, who wrote Watchmen and V for Vendetta? He is a maniac, and he had this interview that caught me at the right time. And by the right time, I mean a time when I was doing a lot of drugs and I was on my own a lot and I was very insular. And he had... He had this thought experiment he wanted people to do, which was most contemporary people do not pray in the traditional sense, and that is fine. Like, but the reason that they don't pray is because they are only aware of 3, maybe 2, maybe even just one God, and that God doesn't resonate with them, and so they don't pray to that God because that feels dumb. How about you research some gods? Because there are more gods than a human being can possibly learn about in a lifetime. Go and research some gods until you find one that resonates with you. And then, just as an experiment, take 3 days and pray to them as if they're real. Like, don't, even if you know they're not, you suspect they're not real, just as a thought experiment, pray to them as if they're real. And I was like, Alan Moore, I'm going to take you up on your little call to adventure. So I did that, and I went through all of these different gods, and I found Ananke, who is the god of multiple things. But the one that resonated with me is, if you take a very sort of circuitous look at what she is the god of, she is the god of workaholism. That is how I interpreted her. She's the god of being compelled to do something almost against your will. And at that time, I was working on 2 projects. I was working on Moth, which is my first album, and I was working on a very early version of Myth, which is the album that just came out 10 years later. And I was so high all the time, and I was so on my own schedule with the world, and I had no one around. I'd just been broken up with, and also I'd lost my voice, and I was living off of savings, and I had nothing going on, and so I just dove into this album and made Moth. And I was working like 16-18 hour days on this, because I was just like so locked into it, and I couldn't sleep, and I couldn't think, and I couldn't function on any frequency that wasn't just thinking about making this album. And when I announced the album, I hadn't written that track, but I knew that track had to exist, because the function, the structure of Moth is side 1 is a 7-track album. Track 8 is the album Rewinding, and then tracks 9 through 15 are a commentary track on the first half of the album. And so I knew I needed a track 14, I think, but I hadn't written it. And so that's why it's called I Haven't Written This One Yet, but I'm sure I'll think of something. And I was also concurrently working on Myth. And again, I don't want to get too deep into the lore. I was also concurrently working on Myth, and so I wrote this piece that was supposed to be for Myth, and it was going to be a prayer written by David Brownlee, because he is in a lighthouse which I decided was named Ananke, because one of the themes of Myth is being compelled, is compulsion, and feeling like you are not in control of your own fate, and feeling like maybe you are a character in a story that is being told in a reality above yours, and you aren't really in control of what you're doing. And that is why the lighthouse is called Ananke. It is named it's called Ananke just because I can imagine a lighthouse being called that, but it's also called Ananke because thematically it fits with the theme of the story, and it also very much fits with the idea of David Brownlee, who was going there in a fit of compulsion, and is going there not knowing what he is going to be compelled to do, and potentially dying because of it. He's living in that building, basically. This is why I don't write things that aren't scripted. I don't know how to put my thoughts together. So, it was going to be a prayer from the perspective of David Brownlee. It was going to be something that was left behind that people found, because he knew. Because he had drawn a connection between Ananke the lighthouse and Ananke the god, and his workaholism. And then I needed a track to fit on to Moth, and I updated it slightly and put in the line about video games and stuff, which I love, but obviously wasn't in his version, and put it on the album. So there we go. There's some lore for you, if you were like. That is still canonical in my head, kind of. That the original version of the Ananke track on Moth, I haven't written this one yet, but I'm sure I'll think of something, is probably based on a prayer that David Brownlee wrote. But why has she kept on turning up? She's kept on turning up because I knew where I was going with this. I knew that I was eventually going to write Myth, and that I'd already put a reference to something from Myth on my first album. And there are, so she just keeps on turning up. She keeps on turning up in places, partly for lore reasons, and partly because I don't pray to that god, because I didn't really resonate with the practice, but love the idea. Love the idea. And then I went to visit Ananke because the statue that's on the cover of Moth is in, I can't remember where, somewhere on the south coast of England. And I went to visit her in 2023, and I tried to make a video out of it and completely fucked it up. So the video didn't end up anywhere, I don't think. Okay, cool. I hope that made in the least bit of sense. I feel there are, how many people are there in this chat? Well, there's 72 people in here, and I'm not engaging with you directly, and that's making this feel very strange. Is Bug in here? Is the moth from Moth hot? So the moth from Moth, the line is, I love you like a moth loves the moon. You are the moon, I am the moth. So yeah, I guess I'm pretty hot. You know, what can I say? Thank you for asking. Let's see. In story 6, is the stranger being compelled by the choir master to tell a story? Yeah, I think I basically answered that. I'm so sorry. I have a cold coming on, which is why I'm a bit snuffly. Yes, that is not me. If you listen to the tape with nothing recorded on top of it, if the tape was real, it would go story 6, and then it would tell a completely different story. It wouldn't be called The Choir of One. It would be called something completely different. And what is happening in that moment is I am being compelled to tell a fairy tale. And to make things really thematically neat, I am telling a fairy tale which, shrouded in metaphor, is explaining what is going on the island of Saint Sasha. It's like a metaphor on top of a metaphor on top of a metaphor. But, yeah, I'm being compelled to tell that story. What led David Brownlee to come to the island in the first place? Like, what compelled Brownlee to come to the island in the first place before he heard the stories in the residence? Okay, this is some lore I'm happy to give you, because this isn't like, this is just like background lore I had in my head. David Brownlee is he lived in Edinburgh. Again, not a real person. David Brownlee lived in Edinburgh. He sort of upper middle class, and had some family who lived on the coast and would go out to spend time with his distant cousins. Maybe not even distant, just cousins. Go out to spend time with his cousins on the coast in a town called Graylin, which also doesn't exist, but a little Scottish town on the coast called Graylin, which faces out onto the west. And his uncle was a his uncle was a fisherman who'd been a part of that, like in Graylin for generations upon generations. And one of the jobs he had towards the end of the 19th century was a couple of times a month he would load up his fishing boat and he would travel out across the water, and he would go to Saint Sasha to give those people, this was after they had been discovered. They were no longer this secret like isolated group. They'd been known about for, you know, probably a few hundred years by that point. And David Brownlee and his uncle would get in the boat, and they would go over it, and they would leave some things with the people of Saint Sasha. And then usually they would leave at the end of the day, but there was a storm one time, and they couldn't leave. And so they were stuck on the island, and then this ritual happens that happens every night, which was all of the people come together, or most of the people, whoever can, come together, and they tell these stories. And David Brownlee is like, what the fuck is going on here? That was when he was a kid. He then goes back to school, and they have a sort of writing, a creative writing challenge. And because David Brownlee does not have a creative bone in his fucking body, he takes this story and he presents the story that he remembers hearing from the one time he was on the island. And he presents it as his own, and he gets some sort of feedback for it. And people say, wow, this is very good, David. And of course they don't recognize it, because why would they recognize it? This is a story that has never been told before and will never be told again. So he says, in his head, I got to get back to that island. So he goes over the next year and spends a a couple of days at a time, and then he goes over the next year, spends more than a couple of days at a time, and eventually people are just expecting him to come along, and they feel comfortable showing him these stories. And then as he gets older and older, he's like, I am going to take every single one of these stories and I'm going to write them down. And that's where that is where our story begins. So yeah, he wasn't compelled initially to come to the island. He went to the island with his uncle to deliver supplies and maybe to even take some like textiles or something back to the mainland as part of the growing economy. But it was when he stole that first story and got a positive reaction for it that at that point he was fucked. He's not recovering from that. Let's see. What inspires you to add so many human aspects to Myth and your other albums? Like sighs, yawns, heavy breathing, pauses in between lines, even recording in different places with different audio qualities. Because I love it. Because I think that there are all these... I mean, this is hardly something that I invented, but... I like a well-produced album. I like a well-produced album. The problem is when you're at... The problem with production and overproduction on an album is when you start thinking that the point of that production is to engineer out the humanity of the record, as opposed to using your skills as a producer to amplify the humanity, and to not have the humanity be lost. And that is why the albums that I love the most are albums that are well produced and capture who those human beings are. And I am just me, and I produce me, producing the things what I wrote for me to sing. And so I'm always trying to zone in on things I do when I'm recording that are spontaneous. Like, for example, on there's a library at the very bottom of this place. There was a bit at the beginning that I did cut out because it was too stupid, where I just go that stayed on the album until really close to the deadline, and then I took it out because it was I ended up taking it out because the intro to Library started getting that, and then it would just go straight into it, and that was a better introduction. But the bit going into the first chorus where it goes, that wasn't supposed to be there. That was just a sort of a human moment. It was a spontaneous moment, and those are the bits that create a good song, I think. Like, there is a reason that the version of Beach Piano that is on Myth is the very first version of Beach Piano that I recorded, and it's because I can record a version of that where I sing better. I can record a version of that where I play better. I can record a version of that where the guitar is more in tune, but it's going to be less human, and the humanity is what's important for me. So I include it simply because that's what excites me, and because I think it is maybe what gets me to stand out, I guess, a little bit, simply because it took me 20 years to figure out that the point of production is to amplify humanity rather than erase it. And most people who get into recording an album haven't learned that yet. So simply just by virtue of the fact that I've been here longer, I can include that on my albums. So yeah, once everyone else figures that out, I'm screwed. Let's see. Were you actually walking through the woods? Please say yes. Yes, 100%. I was walking through the woods looking like an absolute insane person. Oh, shit. Okay. Oh, okay. Right. Why did the songbird rush to leave the stranger that night? it most likely has something to do with Saint Sasha, maybe because they shared songs relating to it. I know the answer to this. I know the answer to this. It is textual. Like, it's in the text, but it's hidden pretty well. And I haven't... Aha! Haha! Someone's like, don't tell us then. Fantastic. Cool, I won't. Yeah, no, I will say it is hidden in there. It is hidden in there pretty well. Like, if someone came to me and was like, is this why the songbird ran away? And they gave me exactly... Sorry, that was your question. And they gave me exactly what my intention was. I would, maybe even just in a DM, I'd be like, yeah, 100%. That is why the songbird left. You think, as the listener, that you don't know a lot about the songbird because they are someone that is mentioned in passing, and you don't know anything. You think you don't know anything about where they have come from, or what they were running away from, or why they ran away from me. But you are wrong when you say that. Depending on how you look at this album, I think that you could even say that there is more information about the songbird than there is any other character in this entire story. But delete. What compelled Brownlee and the stranger to enter the forest? Oh, by the way, the songbird is the character, because they're called the songbird in the credits, and if you haven't seen the credits, because they aren't named, the songbird is the character that I meet in Jaipur at the very beginning, and the songbird is the person whose voice appears in between different songs on side 2, and is singing the very last line of a song before my final line. So that is who the songbird is. I needed to give them a name, and I didn't want to give them a name. And so I had the narrator, the documentarian. I called myself the stranger. And if you can't figure out why I called myself the stranger, then you are not listening carefully enough. I'm so sorry. That's such a wankery thing to say, but like, it is in the text. It is right there. And if you can't figure out why I'm calling myself the stranger, then... I mean, figuring out why I'm calling myself the stranger is probably a good way to start figuring out why the songbird left. So yeah. Oh, shut up. Stop it. Let people have fun. Okay. But what compelled Brownlee and the stranger to enter the forest? So, I thought about having a bit on the album where I would go, a forest? But there isn't meant to be a forest on Saint Sasha, and now there is a forest? What is this? And then I realized that sucks, and that's not scary. And what is scary to me is a character who knows for a fact that there is not a forest on the island, who knows that, and then encounters a forest and reacts to it with sort of mild curiosity. It reacts to it like you would react to something weird in a dream, where you just accept it. Which is why I never say, and now there is a forest. It's like you're just supposed to hear it. And it was so important to me that people know I'm walking through a forest, and I was so afraid of screwing that up. And I know that there will be some people who didn't pick up on it, and that's fine. But the reason that I recorded it live by walking through a forest is I'm just like, I just want to record something that sounds like I'm walking through a forest, and I'm just going to record this in a forest. Anyway, why was my character compelled to go in there? I mean, it's a bit of a cop-out to say fairy tale reasons. Like, there was clearly a compelling entity on the island, very vague, and they are being beckoned into the forest, either just by the promise of adventure, but I mean adventure in like a very fairy tale-y way, where they are being faced with a fairy tale adventure and they say yes. But also, again, it's dream logic. Like, it's not a dream. This is the secret to this is not it's all a dream. But in a dream, you look out your window and you see a forest that's not usually there. There is a good chance you're going to walk into that forest because dream logic. And we're talking fairy magic here. I think David Brownlee walked into that forest. No, that's the end of that sentence. I think my character just walked into that forest because they had been so immersed in these stories for their entire life that they had almost been primed to go into the forest upon seeing it. It was such a core part, these stories were such a core part of their understanding of the world and their understanding of people, that when they go to St. Sacha and they encounter a forest there, the decision has already been made for them. Like, they're going to go into that forest because it's like their whole life has been preparing to go into that forest, even if they didn't believe it would be there until the moment they saw it. Yeah. Let me look at another question. Is Jack a metaphor to a specific character? Okay, you know what? I'm gonna break my rule, and I'm gonna give you a piece of lore which is going to disappoint some of you, but I think it might also be freeing, because Jack, how Jack lost herself in the Hall of 1,000 Doors and never found her way home is a reference to this. This is a book that I wrote for my partner, because her favorite childhood books were Alice in Wonderland and Alice Through the Looking Glass, and so I wrote her a book called Alice in the Underbed, or How Alice Lost Herself in the Hall of $1,000,000 and Found Her Way Home Again. And it is a reference to this. And the reason I'm telling you that is because I kind of want to set you free a little bit. Like, I don't want you scratching your heads being like, who's Jack? Who's Jack? And I'm like, Jack is a fairy tale character name. Like, Jack in fairy tales could be a million people. It doesn't really matter who Jack is. Like, Jack is not a real person. Even in the world of these stories, Jack's probably not a real person. But there are metaphors in those stories that are pointing towards something that is true. But yeah, I wrote this story. It's not supposed to be this big, by the way. I ordered a book that I thought was going to be half that size. Yeah, I love this. I love this book. I'm so pleased with it. Here's Alice meeting a king and queen who are two fortune teller machines. Wait, here we go. And they have a song. You know what? I've been thinking about rewriting, because this is okay. This is very fun as like a present you do for your partner, but it's not great. And I have been thinking about rewriting it and releasing it. And the back of the story says, human girls in particular, are a bad omen around these parts. I'm not superstitious myself, but considering the circumstances, it would be worth remembering that such stories frequently have some basis in truth. Apparently, I've been writing the same bloody story my entire life. Yeah, no, you are free. You don't need to be guessing who Jack is now. Jack, that was me being like, I really like the title of this, and I'd like to foreshadow something. Oh yeah, also Jack is gay as fuck. So let's... Could we potentially see or read what the original version of I Haven't Written This One Yet was? No, it doesn't exist. Because I'm so bad at archiving. That what I did was I took the story, I took the thing that I had written for Myth back in 2015, and then I edited the original file. Gone forever. I'm so sorry. I don't remember how it goes. It also wasn't as good. Like, it wasn't as good as the version that I ended up putting on Moth. What does Sasha, the waves have forgotten they are part of the sea mean? It feels so important, but I just don't get it. Also, who is Sasha? Saint Sasha doesn't exist. I couldn't find anything on... You know, I really thought that me releasing this album would be an end to people being like, but who's Sasha? I have to look for Sasha and Saint Sasha doesn't exist. And I'm like, I fucking tell you on the album Saint Sasha doesn't exist. I'm not going to tell you what that line means in the narrative of Myth, but I will tell you what that line means to me. And what that line means to me, not as a character in Myth, is the closest thing I have to a religious or spiritual belief in my life is that this thing that I call me and that you call me, we pretend like these are different things. We pretend that we are separate creatures, and that we build these walls up between each other made of the tastes that we like and the music that we like and the colors that we like and the experiences that we have had and the pain that we have faced and the trauma that we faced and the beautiful experiences we've had. Very similar to fungus. Yes, it's exactly the same idea as fungus. But I don't think that that's real. I don't think that there is actually, not only metaphorically, I literally believe that we are the same creature, and that to think of ourselves as individuals is kind of like having a calm sea and then a wave crests on the sea. And in the moment that it is a wave, it is tricking itself into believing that it is not only separate from the sea, but separate from all of the other waves. But it's not. The wave goes from nothing to something, it crashes, and it's gone again, but it doesn't die. It was never a separate thing to begin with. And so Sasha, the waves have forgotten they're part of the sea, and the sandcastles have forgotten they're part of the beach, is just me sort of reminding myself of that. And that's something I've been thinking about a lot, specifically over the last few years, because going on stage 40, 50 times a year in front of 200, 300, 400, 500 people a night is really doing a number on my ability to remember that I am not an individual, you know, because people are looking at me and they're going, you are the entertainer, you are the songwriter, and you are a special person. And some part of me is like so deeply nourished by that in an unhealthy way that it has affected my ability to remember what I actually believe, which is that there isn't really any difference between me and anybody else, and that we are, as literally as I can mean it, the same thing. So that's what the song's about for me. That's also what the line I'm not my voice or the echo back or the echoes back. That's what that's a line about. You know, I'm not my voice. I'm not the echoes back. I'm yeah. I think I've explained that pretty well. But within lore, who knows what that song means? I'm not telling you. There is a double meaning to that song. I worked really hard on making sure that that song meant something because that was the closest thing I had to a song on this album that I was like, I need this song to exist for this album. And And so I was really careful about making sure that there would be a personal element to it, and it wouldn't just be a story. It wouldn't just be a story that I'm telling. All right, let's get into this. Something different. So people are asking about my DAW. What digital audio workstation do I use? And how did I make Myth sound the way I made it sound? Let's get into it. Okay, let's take a little break and we'll do this instead. So let's see if I can figure out how this fucking program works. Right, I'm going to... is this what I'm going to do? No. Get rid of that. And then... no, wait. Don't worry, guys. I've got you. Wait, do I got you? Da. Da, 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 da. Yeah, here we go. All right. Let me just make sure this is going through. That's going through. This looks like it's coming through. Excellent. Okay. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this because this is going to be really interesting to a couple of people and boring as fuck to a lot of people. But let me just do a little recording first, and then I'm going to show you how I made the audio warp, and I'm going to show you how I made things sound like they were on a tape, because I spent so much money on tape emulators until I finally found one that did what I wanted it to do. Right, let's just record something. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm making those sounds with my mouth. I said 1, 2, 3, 4. I said I'm making the sounds with my mouth. I said 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm making those sounds and I'm making my mouth. I'm gonna heap down, scamper down, and I'm making those sounds with my mouth. Tell me if you can hear this. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm making those sounds with my mouth. I said 1, 2, 3, 4. I said I'm making the sounds with my mouth. Perfect. Cool. Right, we're on to a banger already. Okay, so I'm going to set that to loop, and I'm also going to turn it down just for your sake. 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, no. Before I do that, right, here is how I make it warp, and I use a thing called Echo Boy by Soundtoys. You don't need to use this. You can use any delay plugin you have. Just making sure that that's coming through. Yes, that is coming through. You can use this on any with any delay program that you have. Now, if I just use this on its default setting, here's how it's going to sound. Sounds with my mouth. I said 1, 2, 3, 4. I said I'm making the sounds with my mouth. So the first thing you want to do is you want to get more control over the echo time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this from eighth notes to, now I'm in control of it, to the millisecond. That gives me so much control over it. Right now it sounds like this. I said 1, 2, 3, 4. Exactly the same. I'm also going to make sure that it is mono. I'm going to turn the width down to minimum. I'm going to make sure that there's no offset between left and right. And then, this is the big secret, I'm going to turn the mix from dry. If you need to know, dry is just you're hearing it completely unprocessed. 1, 2, 3, 4. And wet means your sound is in my mouth. I said 1, 2, 3, 4. I said I'm making the sounds with my mouth. Right. So now I have turned this to wet. You're not hearing the original file at all anymore. You're just hearing the processed sound. I'm going to show you that again. Said 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm making the sound and I'm making my mouth. Now, this is what changed my shit completely. Is if I loop this and I play with the delay time. And remember, I've got I have this to the millisecond. This is what it sounds like. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm making the sounds with my mouth. I said 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm making the sounds with my mouth. I said 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm making the sound and I'm making the yes. This, I thought, I didn't know how I was going to get the warping. I knew I wanted warping and I didn't know how to do it. And when I found out that I could do that just by playing around, and the thing is, I'm not trained in this. I bet if I'd asked the right producer, they'd have been like, yeah, just use the echo time, the delay time on a delay thing. I figured this out in my own brain. The last piece of this puzzle is automating that. So generally what I will do is I would set it to about let's say 400, that gives me a lot of headway to make it go high by shortening the amount of time, and it gives me a lot of headway to make it go low by lengthening the amount of time. And then I would automate it. I'm not going to bother telling you about automation because you will understand that in your own DAW if this is what you do. But for the people at home, automation is where you fiddle around with things and then it records what fiddling you have done, so you don't need to keep doing it, and then every time you play it back it'll do the same fiddling that you did that one time. So shit, how do I do this again? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm making the sounds with my mouth. I said 1, 2, 3, 4. I said I'm making the sounds with my mouth. I said 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm making those sounds and I'm making my mouth. I'm making those sounds with my mouth. And now, when I play that back, it should just play back what I did without me having to do a single thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm making those sounds with my mouth. I said 1, 2, 3, 4. I said I'm making the sounds with my mouth. I said 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So that's how I got the warping. If you're going to try and do that, like, it's important to remember that if you're trying to replicate the sound of a tape, it isn't just going to be one track on that tape that is warping. It's going to be the whole thing. So maybe you want to put that on a bus. You want to put that on the master bus or something like that. That is how I got the warping done. Here's how I got the tape done. So what I wanted out of a tape was I wanted a tape emulator that would give me control over... It would give me some sort of hiss, so you'll be able to hear this. Wait, no, you can't. No, you can't. Here we go. Because that's just hiss that is picked up by the microphone whenever you hit record. I will generally be very, very deliberate with where I put that. So it'll be like just slightly beneath the level of conscious hearing, because it also stacks up if you're not careful, and then your whole track sounds like this. I wanted to be able to control, let's see, the wornness of the tape. So I can 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm making those sounds with my mouth. I said 1, 2, 3, 4. I said I'm making the sounds with my mouth. I said 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm making those sounds and I'm making my mouth. So just playing around with the different types of tape it lets you emulate, and playing around with the saturation can get you some, and you can also automate these things as well, can get you some pretty convincing sounds in terms of a tape sounding old. But the thing that I couldn't find any other plugin that would do this is depth, width, and intensity of dropouts. And there are some people that hate this. There are some people that were like, Matt, please don't make the Myth do this anymore. But old tapes will drop in and out on your left and right ear. You will get a little bit, just for split seconds, where the volume will dip slightly in one ear. I'm making those sounds with my mouth. I said 1, 2, 3, 4. I said I'm making the sounds with my mouth. I said 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm making those sounds and I'm making my mouth. I'm gonna heat off, and I'm making those sounds with my mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm making the sounds with my mouth. I said 1, 2, 3, 4. I said I'm making the sounds with my mouth. I said 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm making the sounds and I'm making my mouth. Yeah, that's what an old tape sounds like. And it took me literally over 10. I bought 10 different emulators. I was doing it for a couple of years until I found one that would let me make the sound I wanted to make. There we go. That's how I made the sound of Myth. Once I figured out how to do it, it was just a case of doing a lot of automation. I was very deliberate about it. Most of the work I did, because most of the songs were recorded in one take. In fact, all of the songs were recorded in one take. They were all live. Yes, this is going to be recorded. I'm going to put it on YouTube. Do not worry. Yeah. A lot of the production work was making sure that the tape sounded exactly as warped, exactly as old as I wanted it to at every specific moment. It was a lot of automation, and if any professional producer looked at the file where I'm doing this, they would kill me and then themselves. Like, it's unforgivable, the mess that I made. Matt, do you edit and produce all your albums yourself? Yes, I do. I do not play well with others. I do not think that my ideas are all amazing, but I don't like it when someone else is one step ahead of me and has figured out my idea isn't amazing before I figured it out. So I now work on my own, at my own pace, so that I can figure out at my own pace how good or bad something is. And I don't have to deal with somebody else not believing in something. Also, sometimes an idea, other people don't believe in the idea until it's finished. I have been explaining myth to people for a long time, and they have, some people kind of get it, and some people just didn't get it, in the same way as there were so many people who told me that Long Courtney was a bad idea. There were so many people who told me that Apple didn't work, and I knew they were wrong. I knew that they were either wrong or that my audience is so niche that the idea that a friend would just so happen to be a member of my audience who likes what I'm going for, that chance is really small. So sometimes you just got to push through and be like, I know you don't believe in this, so I'm not going to work with you. I'm going to do it on my own, so I don't need to deal with somebody who doesn't fucking believe in this. Yeah. Right. We're like an hour in, and I'm not done. So I know for a fact that I'm not going to get a chance to answer all these questions, but let me see if I can do some quick fire questions. Will we ever get clean versions of the scratchy or muffled pieces of music, like the piano track? People on Patreon already have that. If you're on Patreon, get in the Patreon and you will find a full version of that muffled piano track called I Meant It Yesterday, and I think I am going to put it up on Spotify. You are also going to get... there is also a full recording of Frankie reading if only there was a Patreon link somewhere. Wait, is there not a Patreon link somewhere? Fuck my life. Okay, listen. If you go on Patreon and look up the Narcissist Cookbook and you want to sign up, I think basically everybody, no matter what you sign up to, as long as you sign up for like more than $3 or £3, you get access to everything. Basically everything above that, it's just like, hey, if you have more money and you want to give me more money, you can do that. People who have signed up for like $20 or £20 get a hard copy of Myths, so that's coming their way. But as well as that piano track, there was also a complete fairy tale that Frankie recorded that is like 5.5-6 minutes long that I had to cut, and it's called The Two Heirs, and of which the title still exists, but the track doesn't exist, and I don't think that is going to be released anywhere. I'm so sorry. I hate to paywall you. The hard copy is going to be cassette. There are Myth cassettes coming out. The lore of the Two Heirs, because obviously there's a bit on Myth where it's like the Two Heirs, and then it starts talking about Jack and stuff. And the fact is, if you had been listening to that tape, at every other point you listen to that tape, it would tell a story about a king who gave birth to two twin girls and had to choose who was going to be the heir to his kingdom. But when you listen to that tape on Saint Sasha, if you're me and everything's going fucky-wucky, you start hearing things that were never on the tape, like about Jack being lost in a forest that is trying to eat her, about a forest saying that it's always dreamed about being haunted. Like, those things are not meant to be on the tape. But if you want to hear the original fairy tale, The Two Heirs, it is on the Patreon. Let's see. Will you keep releasing songs from the Myth world? Because, yeah, there have been songs in a way that makes no sense to anyone but me. There are songs on Moth, Him, and This Is How We Get Better that are all kind of set in the Myth world for me. Yeah, I'm going to keep writing songs that are set there, if only because there is a world... There is a world where I am going in my head to paint those images, and it's not the island of Saint Sasha, but the island of Saint Sasha is in between this world and that world, in a way that I'm probably never going to explain in a way that's clearer than that. So, yes, I have tracks that are written up on my wall right now that are set in that world. I've got one that's called an ancient language, which is set in that world. I'm probably not going to be... There is not going to be a Myth Part 2. There is... Yeah. I'm not going to turn into Coheed and Cambria or whatever, where it's like there is a big story. Like, Myth is self-contained. Myth is over. But it also, for me, represents the place I go to write tracks like Human Design, to write tracks like I Think I'm Going to Leave My Phone at Home Tonight, to write tracks like Not Entirely Alone is a big one, to write tracks like Good Love, obviously. Let's see. What inspired you to make the format a cassette tape with multiple narratives? Just because it really excited me, because I was growing up listening to children's audiobooks and the how warped they were, and I loved that the older they got, the more interesting they got, and it's like, oh, that person's voice didn't used to go, but now it does, and yeah, I'm just really interested, because there is something, when I say, oh my God, there's just something about tapes you don't get with CDs, by that I mean the idea that someone who has a tape can make a creative decision to simply record over part of that tape is such a cool concept to me, and I hadn't heard an album that does that. I am told that there are horror podcasts that kind of play with that, which I haven't listened to, but I hadn't heard an album do that, and I just wanted to give it a shot. That's just a meme. Why was Brownlee's book retitled Brownlee's Fairy Tales to the Fairy Tales of Saint Sasha? Okay, here we go, some lore. I've got some lore for you. Listen up, lore heads. It was originally called Through the Deep Dark Forest, Brownlee's Fairy Tales, because originally he was just passing them off as his own stories. But he didn't quite get people biting in the way... He didn't quite get people biting in the way that they had when he was younger. And so he had to... And then he started working in the idea that these were stories he had taken from a Scottish island, and that got people interested. Because if you are an artist, you will know that sometimes it is not enough to simply have good art. Brownlee's a bad example of this because he'd stolen it. But it is not enough to have good art. It is sometimes you got to have a story for people to grab onto. And so inevitably... eventually he realized that the best way to market these stories was by saying they were from a Scottish island, because the end of the 19th century was sort of at the height of train lines had just been built, like mass ferries had just been built. People were traveling cheaply and quickly for the first time, assuming I've got my history right. People from England would travel up to Scotland in a way that they just hadn't been able to do in the past, because it was all done on horses and carts, and now people could do it in trains, and you could travel en masse for cheap and quicker, and so people were looking for places to go and visit. And so he tapped into the zeitgeist by saying, oh, these are from an island, actually. Like, I actually am presenting you stories from this beautiful, isolated Scottish island. And so they changed the title of it so he could market it better. And in the process, drove a bunch of tourism to the island, which destroyed the infrastructure of the island, literally made it impossible to live there. And so the island was cleared. There we go. That is why he changed the title of the book. If you had to make a music video of any song off of Myth, what would it be? It would be probably The Library at the Very Bottom of This Place, or The Choir of One. One of those two. I saw an amazing animator on Tumblr the other day. I can't remember her name. She does like stop motion, and it's amazing. But I think one of those would be the most interesting one. Yeah. or The Girl Who Painted Death. Yeah. Live performance. Do you have any plans or ideas about how this would translate to a live performance? Oh my god, why do I keep dropping my fucking phone, man? I tend to keep my live performances and my albums as very compartmentalized. I don't like writing and recording for an album thinking, how am I going to make this work live? I don't like approaching a live show thinking that I have to make something sound like it did on record. So the great thing about Myth is that all of the songs on there are recorded live. They are live acoustic takes. So I can do every single song on this album without having to worry about it. There's nothing going on there that means I can't do it. The spoken word bits, I think the only ones I can actually imagine doing would be A Call to Adventure myself or Heavy Rain on Hot Tin Roofs. Potentially, I have talked to Frankie about getting Frankie on stage if I ever play a show near where she lives, and finding a way to make that work. That would be amazing. I am not going to do a choir of one, and maybe I could do a choir of one, but it's so... I don't feel like a choir. The choir of one, I think, is very effective in the context of the album. I don't think the choir of one is effective as a standalone piece. I don't think it makes any sense to have that as a standalone piece, but A Call to Adventure would, especially if A Call to Adventure was paired with Damaged Goods, because they're both tracks about codependency, and I think Heavy Rain on Hot Tin Roofs would work because it's pretty much a standalone story. Yeah, let's see. What were the stranger and the songbird running from before they met? Nah. No, under no circumstances. Does the portrait in The Girl Who Painted Death show in the subject... I'm so sorry. Does the portrait in the girl... I'm blocking out chat. Does the portrait in The Girl Who Painted Death show when the subject of the portrait dies? Yeah, I think I can tell you that without ruining it for you. Like, what is happening to Dawn is Dawn has a power that she did not ask for, which is that she loves to paint, but when she paints a person, she will, no matter how hard she tries, will paint them in the clothes that they are wearing and paint them aged up to how they will look on the day they die. Her name's Dawn. Yeah, her name's Dawn. It's in the story. I name her in the story. No, yeah, it's Dawn, short for Donald. Hey, Donnie. Hey, Donnie. So yeah, she has no control over it, and she stops painting, and then her partner is just like, draw me, and Dawn is just like, you know what, I haven't done that since I was a child. Like, maybe I was imagining it, maybe that's not real. And then she draws her partner, and she keeps trying to draw her as she is, and she fails. She ends up drawing her in clothes that she has never seen before. She ends up drawing her noticeably older than she is on that day, and she realizes, and she's just faced with the mortality of her partner, and she struggles. She thinks that her, in a roundabout way, like, I don't know if she actually believes this, but she thinks that her painting it has made it happen, which obviously isn't the case. Like, her partner's going to die one day, but she thinks that, the painting is what has confronted her with this reality. So she thinks that it's the painting's fault, that it's her fault, but it's not. And as she finds out, it's actually a little bit of a blessing in disguise, because, Did I pull any inspiration from found footage and recorded to tape media? Not really. I know, like, fiction podcasts I've never really gotten into. I was a listener of very, very, very early Night Vale until Night Vale stopped being standalone and started being episodic and started having all these like plot lines that went from episode to episode. And I was like, I don't care about these people. I just want you to tell me about the dog park. And obviously that isn't sustainable in the long term, and that isn't the story they wanted to tell. But yeah. Let's see. This is going to entail a lot of work. Can we get a hint as to what this voice is and why it's on the tape? I think I heard this same voice on side 2 somewhere. You did. But now I can't find it. Oh no. Maybe it's not there anymore. I think you said somewhere that you weren't going to reveal who or what that is, but could you point me in the right direction? Oh. Because it's not. Because here's the thing: someone could come to me. So that there is a recording. There's a recording on side 1 where in between 2 of the tracks it goes, "This is going to entail a lot of work," and then there was a recording on side 2 which is more distorted, but it's the same voice, and I don't explain who that is. And I want to show you my internal logic right now, which is, you could come to me and you could be like, oh, I think it's David Brownlee, because here is like obviously it makes no sense that he'd be on the tape, but like there's magic and shit going on. I think it's David Brownlee. You could come to me and be like, I think it is this character, I think it is this character, and if I just tell you who it is, then it's not fun for you anymore. And the answer isn't that interesting. Like, the answer in my head of who that is not as interesting as the idea that you have in your head. And I know that even saying that is sort of taking some of the fun away. However, there was someone in the chat, Ryan, who has said, I assume that one was spoiler tag. And so I am going to open up this spoiler tag. And if this is the right answer, then I'm just going to tell you. Or maybe, right, okay, wait. Okay, wait. Oh, you're actually very close. I assumed that was one of the things that got recorded over on the tape, and it was the rescue crew who recovered Brownlee's body. That isn't what I had in my head, but it's close enough that it makes no difference. Like, what I will say is that in my head, there is no logical explanation for this recording being on the tape. But time is a bit fucky on the island of Saint Sasha. And the more I talk about Saint Sasha, the more I feel like I'm turning into the people who wrote Lost. But, yeah, there is... it is a character in line with that. You know, it is someone that you're like, but wait, there's no way that person could possibly be on the tape. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. There is something fucky going on the island. So yeah, I think that is, yeah, 100%. That is close enough with what my original intention was. Is Victoria Brownlee Plass actually related to David Brownlee? I will tell you that no, she is not blood related. She married into the name. I think we are maybe getting towards the end of this. Oh yeah, okay. This one. What did the Narcissist Cookbook see at the end of story 6? You seem to be talking to the audience about the choir of one, but then you stop and keep breathing. But due to the way you're breathing, it seems like you saw something. Okay, can you just unbreak my heart? And can everyone in chat tell me that you heard the voice in your right ear saying Matthew at that point? Because that is why my character stops. Okay, thank you very much. I understand that if you're listening to this on your phone, maybe you won't hear that. But one of the things I was really looking forward to about this album was having a whole album that is having a whole album that is mono for an hour and 10 minutes, and then do something that is so hard panned I wanted it to feel horrible, and really startle you. And I think some people got startled and some people didn't. That is why my character stops, because they literally hear somebody say their name, my name, in their ear, and then they turn around and there's no one there. So yeah, that is, maybe they saw something, but in my head they didn't. In my head they turn around and there's nobody there, and then the whole I knew that I'd done a good job for me, at least, because whenever I had to listen to it, I never quite knew when it was coming, and it kept making me go, well. You know, someone's here saying it's the same voice as the hallucinations. That line is spoken by Frankie, okay, but it's so quick you might not know that. So like, that voice is spoken by Frankie. It is the same voice as the narrator, and that's not her playing a different role. That is like, whoever you think the narrator is, whether you think it's actually the narrator of the book or you think it is something else, it is the same. Or you think it is something using the narrator's voice, it is Frankie speaking that line of dialogue. So something wearing Frankie's face, maybe. Are some of the songs canonically written by the Songbird and others by the Stranger? No. Delete. Okay, I think we're getting towards the end of it. I'm going to answer 3 more questions, and unless the first or 2 take too long, in which case I'll answer 2 or 1, I'm going to answer between 1 and 3 questions. Is your mildly known story, The Boy in the Castle, canonical to myth, or is it pure coincidence? Is Time of Some in here? Is Time in here? There we go. Right, yeah. Time, did you find The Boy in the Castle? Is it online somewhere? Okay, cool. So it is online somewhere. Boy in the Castle was a fairy tale I wrote in 2013, I think. No, 2014 probably. It is not canonically linked. Like, it's linked in the sense that I like writing fairy tales, but not really. I think The Boy in the Castle is its own thing. It's a story that is about a boy who lives in a castle, in this castle of infinite wonders, and somebody else comes in and tries to convince him to leave because you can't just stay in the castle forever, and he has a big old meltdown and says, fuck off, I want to play Minecraft. Let's see. Question 1. Question 2. What parts of your process in writing Myth took the shortest and longest stints of time? Okay. I didn't think I was going to tell people this, but I think I will, because the response to it has been really nice. The song that you are hearing on piano, and the song, like, you hear it at the beginning of side 1 and the beginning of side 2, and then you hear the third part of it as with the choir at the very end, and then it ends on piano. The original version of that track was written in 2007. And I have been I tried to put it on Moth, I tried to put it on Him, I tried to put it on This Is How We Get Better. It's so old that I tried to put it on albums for acts that don't even exist anymore. And it's also kind of a Ship of Theseus thing, because I've changed so much of it that I don't even know how much of it still exists, how much of the original version exists anymore. However, if you own the lyric book that I brought out when This Is How We Get Better, I want it, someone in the chat will be able to do this. If you own the lyric book, go and get it. Go and get the lyric book. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to do it. This is how long I was sitting. This is at least how long I was sitting on this song. And then you turn the book around and look at the back cover of it. You will see the lyrics. I am far from getting started, farther still from any end. I look left and I look right, but all I see is where I've been. That is how long, like I've been sitting on that lyric since at least... You can post a pic of that. Yeah, go ahead. So yeah, I've been sitting on those lyrics for ages. I've been sitting on that song for a long time, and I just couldn't find a place for it, but I knew I would find a place for it. And so putting the lyrics on the back of the book, I was like, that's going to be really fun when that song comes out, because I get to do what I literally just did. Very fun. If you post a picture of it, maybe I can even... if you post a picture of it, I can maybe put it in the chat for people. Here we go. Let me just save that, and then I'm going to... Do I think I'm good enough at OBS that I can do this live? Let's find out. Add image, add image book. There we go. Okay. This is the back of the lyric book that came out when This Is How We Get Better comes out. If I'm going to travel onward, and then obviously I was also really pleased with this accidental eye that turned out there, and then it's upside down. So there we go. Got you, motherfuckers. Bam. No, wait, there we go. Right, I'm gonna do one more question. So that's the one that took longest. Like, the original version of that song was written in 2007. Okay, here we go. Is Hot Tin Roofs mostly fictional, or is it something that actually happened? It is, in literally, it is fictional. Like, it is a story that has happened to me multiple times, but it didn't happen in the way that it happens on there. Because the character that I'm playing on this record is basically me, but it is also the most heavily fictionalized version of myself that has appeared on a record yet. And so it was important to me to have a part of the story happen somewhere where I hadn't been, so that no one would think that I was talking about them, if that makes sense. But in real world terms and metaphorical terms, it's a very true story, in the sense that the amount of times that I have met somebody and just immediately had that sort of limerence, had that that feeling like, oh my God, this person is like my person, and felt it so quickly. And it took me a long time to figure out that actually that's impossible, kind of. Like, if you're feeling that kind of feeling about someone that you've just met, you know, the best case scenario is that you are drawn to the person, the version of them that they are showing you. You're not actually you don't actually know who they are. It's impossible for you to know who somebody is in that short a period of time. In that sense, it's a true story. Thank you so much for joining me for this extensive Q&A for the album Myth. I know there are questions I didn't answer. Some of them, okay, yeah, I am forgetting something. No, okay, no. We're gonna stick around just for a little bit longer. We're gonna stick around. We're gonna stick around for a little postscript. Oh my God, fuck me. Okay, right. You motherfuckers. You absolute pieces of shit. All right, okay, I'm just getting this set up. Okay. window capture. Select a window to capture. Moth tier list. Do I have anything I shouldn't have in my if is anything I don't know? Okay, we're good. Okay. Yeah, here we go. Welcome to the official Moth tier list. I just want to check that that's coming through okay. Yes, it is. Okay. So I opened up the Q&A on my Discord, and people were immediately like, is this character hot? And I'm like, don't offend me by asking me if a character is hot. Do you think I would put a not hot character in here? Wait. Shit. Fuck. Wait. There we go. You think I would put a not hot character in my story? Everyone's fuckable. However, there's degrees of fuckability. So, what do we got first? David Brownlee. I think David Brownlee is deeply unfuckable. I think the Songbird. I'm so sorry. The Songbird is definitely S tier. The Songbird Songbook. Oh, definitely S tier. The Sunlight in the Bone Bowl. Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, you know what? I probably would. Saint Sasha the Island. Given what I know about it, can't be. I think it's probably about here. Saint Sasha the person. You guys don't know who Saint Sasha is. I do. I'm probably going to say this is probably the biggest lore drop I've done for who Saint Sasha actually is. Oh, where does Saint Sasha go? Oh, you're going to learn so much. No, I think Saint Sasha's about there. Saint Sasha is the Prophet Sasha. I will tell you that. There is Saint Sasha and the Prophet Sasha are the same person. Let's see. I got lost. I'm going to make this right. Okay. Victoria Brownlee Plass. God, no, I can't say that. I'm going to say that character is very charming. So yeah. Let's see. Right, the Islanders. They are very sad, but also they have something about them, so I'm going to put them there. Jack. I love it. You know, I love a girl with a boy's name, Jack. You know what? I think Jack is probably up there. There we go. The Tweezers, way down here. Steel Wool, way down here. The Orchestra. Oh, yeah. Okay, the Orchestra. Yeah, Orchestra's up here. The Breeze whistling through the house. Yeah, love it. Ananke. Yeah, Ananke. The UK. You know what? We get a bad rap, but we deserve it. God. Let's see. Right. I'm going to leave God for later on. The person who was no one at all. Well, technically they're already at the top, so it'd be weird for me to not put them at the top. The Northern Lighthouse Commission. Yeah, okay, no one's there, and I need dinner, so that'll go there. The Beast, oh, come on now. Dawn. Dawn's taken. They are very monogamous. Let's see. Yeah, I respect Don too much to hit on Don. The beached piano, yeah, it's a bit smelly, and I don't really like the seafood smell. But yeah, again, Don's love, gotta be respectful. Aspiring hermits. Oh, come on, aspiring hermits are, yeah, absolutely top tier. The Bone Bowl. Less fuckable than the sunlight that's in it. Probably about there. Brownlee's rescue vessel. Yeah, those sound like a bunch of hunks. I'm going to put them up there. The Rescuers, bunch of hunks. The Black and Blue Papers. Yeah, that's definitely... Oh, I think they'd probably creep me out, but I like being creeped out. There we go. The Ram's Rotten Skull, absolutely topped. No. Ram's Rotten Skull is going to be there, because I know where that story goes. The water that tastes like wine, unfuckable. I hate the taste of wine. The wine that tastes like whiskey, I hate wine and whiskey. So everything is either hot as hell or unfuckable. Yeah, you're learning about me here, okay? Like, there is a line in the sand, and the line is a canyon, and you're either on one side of the canyon or you're on the other side. I'm so sorry. You said it tastes sublime. Did I? Did I say that? Did I say that the water tastes sublime? The whiskey that tastes sublime. But you know what? I am curious. Let's see. I'm hurt that this is actually, I'm dropping so much more lore hints here than I am anywhere else. The Fairy Tales of Saint Sasha, yeah, I'm so sorry, can't do that. The Damaged Goods, oh Jesus Christ, okay, look at me directly. Am I even going to have enough room in the top tier? The Cassette, yes. Oh, here we go, there we go. Nothing, oh God, that's philosophical. Yeah, I think nothing's unfuckable. The Towering Rock Shrine. Yeah, I'm not convinced. The Well of Riches. No. The Well of Riches actually sucks. The Library. Yeah. Show me one library that isn't fuckable and I will call you a liar. The Worms That Lick the Bones Clean. See, I know that there are some people, I know, and I'm close friends with some people who are like, oh my God, put it at the top, but I'm not one of you. I'm going to put them there because, you know what, I'm going to put them there because that's where I put them, and it feels like chess rules. If I've stopped touching it, I have to, yeah. Let's see. The Choir Master. I'm going to leave that. The Three Beasts. Three Beasts. Well, you tell me. The Three Beasts of grief over someone dying, grief over someone not dying but losing them in their life, and the grief and the third beast of desiring a codependent relationship. Do you think that those are fuckable? No, that person needs therapy. let's see, the audio distortions, I'm so sorry, but all albums from now on are going to give you motion sickness. The sea surrounding Saint Sasha, the beautiful Scottish Ocean, the blackened banks, ooh, yeah, love it. I'm so happy with it. The River Made of Fire as well. I'm so happy with those lines. That's a song that the original version of that song, Damaged Goods, was written in 2010, and I was sitting on it for so long, and it was deadline magic that made it work, because after sitting on the song for 15 years, I was like, I need to make this work today or it's not going to work at all. And thematically, this is perfect for the album. And I completely changed the melody, completely changed the chord progression, and added in a completely different bridge. And it just brought the song together after trying for like 14, 15 years. Crazy. The Forest. I would 100% walk into that forest. Don't know if I would want to bang it. I think I would, question mark. The Stranger. I've been looking at your tier lists, okay, in the Discord, and you know that The Stranger is like a self-insert character, yeah? And you guys were just like, completely down the bottom. So upsetting. Top tier, Stranger Songbook, absolutely unfuckable. God, probably would, and the Choir Master, oh God. Who am I kidding? Absolute top tier. There we go. Well, I feel like you guys have learned more about the secrets of this album from that than you learned from literally any other question you asked me. Thank you so much for sticking around. If you're on YouTube, thank you so much for sticking around. Have a beautiful life.